Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seed Stage. My name is Christopher Goodfellow, and I am the program manager of The Pitch. For those of you that don't know The Pitch, we go all around the country running demo days and helping founders get investment for their business ideas. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about being a solo founder and some of the steps and tactics you can use to make your life easier, to be more productive, and find out from one founder in particular what their journey's like and how they've been able to use tech, productivity tools, ideas, and different techniques just to make running the business on their own a lot less hassle. Yeah, I'd love it if you could start by introducing yourself, and then we'll hear a little bit about your business.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. My name's Tim Spinks, and I am the founder of Sleep Tonic, which is this can of drink right here. It's a healthy drink that promotes sleep. Came up with the idea a few years ago when I was struggling with sleep myself, and randomly made this drink that worked amazingly. And then after a few years, I saw a gap in the market and thought maybe other people will like that drink. And I've now been trading this final product for a year.
Brilliant. We're going to hear a little bit about what that was like to launch and how you kind of run the business day to day. But you obviously took part in the Brighton pitch final recently. So what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I've just started kind of a search for investment myself. So the pitch came around at a really good time to give me great experience and also a great bit of networking at a time when I'm actively trying to pitch to people and meet investors and learn from other founders in the same position. So yeah, it was a really timely experience. And as far as the actual day went, I was much more nervous than I thought I'd be, which is probably a good thing. And the questions I got from the judges, I didn't anticipate either. But if I got those questions now from an investor, I think I'd have really good answers for them. And I'm pretty sure I will get those questions. So all in all, great experience.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I really liked your pitch. And I think the problem you're solving, a lot of us can relate to. So tell me about what it was like right at the start for your business. So, how much money did you have? Were you doing it as a side hustle? Like, what was that very initial period like?
Yeah, I mean, I when I decided that I was already self-employed at the point where I thought I'm going to try and take this product to market. I thought that I was essentially going to start manufacturing the drink at home, and I spent a year refining the recipe, trying to make it at home, having bottles fermenting and exploding all over my kitchen before I realized that I had to find a production partner and rethink the entire business, build some money together to afford the first production run in the first place, and all the labels and everything like that. And but at the point where I decided to take the product to market, it was almost exactly a year from then that the first cans were made. So a hugely frustrating, mentally taxing year. Um,
Yeah, it's really interesting to look back on that period of R&D. So you were kind of like you had an idea, you knew some stuff that would help or helped you with sleep. What was it like to try and find that recipe that worked and the branding as well? Have you got anything you can share?
The recipe goes back a bit further than that when I was personally struggling with sleep, and I came across an old folk remedy for insomnia, which combines apple cider vinegar and honey. And I thought, oh, that's weird. These days, that's really popular for weight loss and gut health. And I used to take that at lunch, and I thought having that before bed sounds awful. So I added it to my nightly chamomile tea one night, and it worked amazingly. The problem was, I was coming to bed with this big steaming vinegary mug of tea that my girlfriend absolutely hated. So she was not the biggest fan of this awful aroma bomb that I was coming to bed with. And then I realized that if you chilled it down, it didn't smell as bad. And if you added a little dash of orange, it actually improved the flavor. And she went from hating it to drinking it herself. And after that kind of conversion and those early signs of, I guess, R&D, I thought, oh, I've got a product on my hands. And that was the kind of recipe that I took into the initial, 1 year process. But like I said, trying to make it at home proved to be too difficult, too unreliable. And I had to eventually find a canning partner to do it for me.
Yeah, and during that year, were you still working a sort of freelance job on the side, or were you 100% on this?
Yeah, no, I was still working the freelance job at the side at the time, but it's amazing. I was trying to do it full time, the sleep tonic, even though I wasn't getting paid from it. But it's amazing, despite how many hours I thought I was spending on it, how slow the progress was. in that time. So yeah, very, very, tough financially because it was taking up so much of my mental energy. Even though I don't feel like I have a lot to show from that year. Um, it took up so much of, so it was so taxing that yeah, and so frustrating that I look back and think, could I have done that in like 3 months rather than a year? I don't know.
Could you have?
If I was going to do it now and make a different drink, I would, do it in 2 or 3, and do it in 2 months. But you don't know what you don't know. I had no knowledge of the industry beforehand. I just had a vague idea that this drink could be popular, and if I was going to start even probably a business in a different field, I feel like that period would be shortened. But this is the first time I'm doing it. I'm a rookie. You got to learn as you go sometimes, and going back, I probably wouldn't change it.
That's really interesting to hear. And you mentioned a phrase there, mental energy, which I think is really important. Like the kind of headspace to do it, the ability to kind of keep up your enthusiasm where there's no clear sort of
Yeah.
deliverables or revenue coming in and stuff like that. Like, do you have anything you'd share there in terms of how other founders can maintain that mental energy in spite of kind of the uncertainty?
Yeah, well, I mean, I fundamentally had a belief in the product, and I thought that, well, this is turning out to be quite difficult to bring to market. And then I read something somewhere that was kind of like, the harder something is, the less people do it, or something like that. And so as a result, I knew I was heading into an unexplored niche because it was proving so difficult to get this product over the line. And I thought, well, the harder this process is to take it to market, probably the more rewarding it will be once it gets there. Um, but yeah, sometimes I'd get really, really down, and what I would do is I would then make like a mug of sleep tonic myself. I was actually putting in these plastic bottles for a time, and I'd just drink one and close my eyes and just be like, wow, I'm onto something really good here. Or I'd drink it one night and wake up feeling fresh the next day, and I thought, this is criminal that this doesn't exist. I have to bring this to market. And that kind of like, yeah, hard nosed, resilience is the only thing really that saw me over the line.
So is that kind of purpose, that idea that, yeah, like I can make a bit of a difference, like I know this needs to exist, that kept you going?
Yeah, I mean, if I was purely motivated by like some long term vision of financial success, I think that the financial implications and cost at the time would have trumped that like desire for future financial success. So I think I would have stopped and done something else. And I did get that temptation, but ultimately, yeah, I don't think like if I was purely motivated financially, I don't think I would have survived it because it was such a costly time.
And what about the support around you? So you mentioned you had a partner when you're talking
Yeah,
about the recipe and everything. Like,
yeah.
was there anybody else that was investing time in it? Did you have mentors? Was she helping at all?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, my girlfriend was obviously a massive support throughout the whole thing, emotionally every day, really. But the I joined the Prince's Trust when I decided I wanted to start bring a product to market. I did their enterprise course, and then I got given a mentor through the Prince's Trust, a mentor who I still meet once a month. I met him, yesterday, and I had a couple of mentors through the Prince Trust, so they really kind of carried me through the process. These mentors and these other experts that I had access to, and then also I managed to get a small grant from them to help me cover the cost of my first production run. So really, without that support network, I definitely wouldn't have made it through. So yeah, that is certainly another key to getting through that initial year.
And bring us up to speed with where you're at now. So you talked about the first year of kind of going from
Mm.
nothing, well, a recipe, an idea, a
Yeah,
purpose, through to having a can that you can sell somewhere. Like
yeah,
what's happened since then?
yeah. So the very first can was made June last year, 2023. So it's been just over a year of what I now realize is test trading, and I've been selling it at farmers markets online, and over the last few months, going B2B in some small retail outlets in the local area. And I remember, yeah, it's been very hard to even just get like routes to markets established without any kind of connections. You can't even just rock up at a farmer's market. You got to know someone, and they've got to, the spaces for that are really competitive. So even like the most simple route to market isn't just like open to you. But now that I've been going, after I've been doing it for like 6 months, nearly a year, suddenly I have other farmers markets kind of reaching out to me. And that's kind of like a momentum shift that I've noticed in all areas of the business. Really, when you start out, starting out with just like $5,000 or something and no contact, no one wants to speak to you. They won't even let you make your drink at their factory, and then you go for a while, you build a bit of a reputation, a bit of momentum, and suddenly people start reaching out to you on LinkedIn, asking you to make their drink at the factory. But over the last year, I've really validated the product. It's been really, really, really popular at the farmers markets, had a great rate of resale online, and the early kind of ventures into B2B have proved to be very promising. So I think that the business has potential to scale and be a commercial success.
And you're still doing everything yourself in terms of, right from being at those farmers markets to, getting on the phones to hotels and stuff like that, and marketing as well.
Yeah. So I'm still doing absolutely all of it myself, and I'm now really at the point where I'm kind of getting to the point now where the different kind of projects within the business are so complex that I'm kind of, struggling to do all of them, struggling to do any of them as well as I could. And I'm definitely at that point now where, feeling at the beginning, I didn't feel like the workload stress of being a solo founder because the wheels weren't turning. And now that the wheels are turning, I'm really feeling that kind of what people speak about, the actual sheer volume of work that you've got to do. And I'm definitely suffering from that at the minute.
Yeah. And do you have any thoughts? I know this is an almost impossible problem to solve in its entirety, but do you have any thoughts or advice on how to prioritize when you're in that situation? Because, all of those retail channels you mentioned have, huge potential for you, but like kind of how do you prioritize, for example, like the time you invest in each?
Very, very with great difficulty is the answer to that. And I was complaining about that very thing to my mentor yesterday because even though I'm like committed to the business, I'll be working on like one project. So maybe it'll be, working on my pitch deck for raising investment. But then that'll get so hard that a part of my brain will be like, go on, maybe you should be focusing on social media because, maybe you should be doing that instead. Maybe that's a key. So I'll do that. And then the moment that starts to get hard, my brain will be like, oh, maybe you should be focusing on retail B2B. And you'll flick between the new areas of your business, procrastinating like that. So it's very difficult. So, I guess, I am probably the worst person to ask this question to because I haven't quite figured it out yet. But I have to be almost like my own boss and like write down what exactly it is I'm prioritizing at the minute and write down why. And every time my brain flits away from one idea to the next, which kind of skirts around that issue, I just look at it and be like, no, you're forcing yourself to do this. These are the reasons why this is like the critical path, the essential thing that has to get done first. And just keep telling myself that every time I almost get distracted.
And does that mentor that you have that you spoke to yesterday, do they bring accountability as well? Are they sort of pushing you to be like, oh, you said you'd do this in September. What's happened? Do you have those kind of discussions? Yeah.
Yeah, after every meeting, he sends like a report, and in it's got a list of actions, things that I want to do, and his role isn't necessarily to be like a force for accountability, but I've said very early on that that's something that I think I'd benefit from, massively, and so it was me who actually made sure that an element of accountability was built into our working relationship because I knew that it was something that I struggled with. Left alone, I'd probably just watch YouTube videos all day. So I really could do with the push in the back.
Yeah, and there is something as well, I think, about just saying this stuff out loud to somebody that makes it kind of more real and more like you have to do it versus it just going around in your head.
Exactly. Yeah.
And is there anything you've done in terms of managing the sort of overall workload, like the time, the hours you spend on your business every week? Like, are you in a healthy place there? Like, how's that relationship with yourself evolved?
I'd say I'm in a pretty healthy place with it. Although there was a time when I was doing so many kind of like farmers markets at the weekend that I was really getting kind of a bit burnt out through that. I think that was kind of like last winter. And then I said, you know what, these farmers markets were a great way to get my product to market in the initial moment. There was literally no other way for me to sell the product. So, apart from setting up a table at these markets. But now that the business has like matured a bit and other avenues have opened to me, I was like, okay, I don't just have to pound the pavements every week, standing out there in the cold, for like, on a Saturday and a Sunday. I was like, I don't need to do it as much. I'm not getting as much out of it as I was. So I pulled back on that. I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but I definitely have thought, okay, there's a financial reward to go into the farmers market and I'll make a bunch of sales, but the cost overall was too high. And ultimately, my aim isn't to have a great farmers market business. It's to scale this way beyond farmers markets. And I feel like I was kind of, did a bit of a cost benefit analysis and I decided to pull back on them a bit.
I think that is a great point. Just that ability to say no and just to realize that, it was right for a phase in your business particularly while you're test trading, like you said, and learning, and that's not something you have to do. I think that's a really, really powerful message.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is obvious in hindsight. It's only when you just summed up that first year as being R&D. I'd never heard of that. I'd never crystallized that first year in such a simple, clear way, but that's exactly what that is. And it was only recently that I realized that my second year, when the drink was actually made, and up until now, that was really what's called test trading, because I'm not doing it at any scale or volume significant enough to call it, I suppose, a full launch. And I'm like, okay, yeah, the first year was R&D, the second year was test trading, and that suddenly makes me feel much better about the whole thing.
Yeah, but that is, it's an important process. It's not just about your perception. I think, it's the narrative around your business, and particularly when you communicate with investors and you talk about milestones and years and what you've achieved, like just be able to label that and say, look, it actually goes from, I spent a year just trying to get a can ready, which, when you initially said that, when we spoke, kind of you put a bit of a negative slant on it. But actually the idea, that's a really sort of powerful Genesis story. If you can kind of say, I was experimenting with recipes, I was blowing things up in the kitchen, I was in the lab all this time figuring it out, and all of a sudden it turns from something that you felt was maybe a little bit negative to a really interesting sort of story about the start of the business.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure my housemates would agree on the interesting thing. I think they were just so fed up with everything stinking of apple cider vinegar. But I certainly put a bit more of a positive spin on it now.
I love that. And you obviously won the Kit Up with Curry's competition. For those of you at home that don't know, the Pitch has been working with Curry's business this year. And they've actually supported the Pitch for the last few years. They supply all of our gear, all of the kit you see us using on podcasts and at events, and they offer discounts to our community and giveaways as well. So a huge thanks to Curry's for that. But Tim, it'd be lovely to hear about that kind of prize and the equipment and the impact that's had on your business.
Yeah, I mean, I still had a laptop that I bought just after university 8 years ago that weighed just under 4 kilograms. Had to be plugged in non-stop and heated up to about 100 degrees in like 3 minutes. So it wasn't really, like fit for purpose anymore. And now that during that kind of, like I said, that initial first year when I was just at home banging my head against the wall, it was okay to have the laptop there. Now I'm kind of venturing out a little bit more, doing kind of B2B trips, trying to get shops on board, going to things like the Pitch. Got accepted onto an accelerator program, so I'm going to be like traveling into London for that. And it's like I need something that I can actually fit into a bag that I can actually use without being plugged in, that doesn't make this like ridiculous whirring sound. And so it's super very, very timely intervention from Curry. It's going to give me the Surface that I can take anywhere, use with a long battery life, looks good on Teams, and has enough processing power to do everything I need.
Awesome, and we've been following your social media content as well about your journey.
Yeah. I mean, in relation to the kit, or just in general?
General, I suppose, but yeah, it was fun to see the unboxing video.
And the loads thing. I'm taking it into London for the first time tomorrow, actually. So hoping to get some shots of me using it at the train and in the NatWest office.
Lovely. And then on the point of sort of tech and productivity, we've talked or mentioned a lot of things around kind of prioritization and managing your time. Like, are there any systems tech-wise that are helping you? Like, do you have project management tools? Do you have a bullet journal? Like, where are you at with that?
Yeah. I've never heard the term bullet journal before, but I feel like it probably is something I should know. But yeah, I'm a very amateur Trello user. I'm slowly but surely, improving my ability to, use that to to prioritize. Now that I don't just have like one project within the business, I have multiple kind of big things going on at the same time. It's really important for me to uh, track the progress within each of them and prioritize them. So I use that a lot. And then I also use Chat GPT and other AI tools a lot, not with word processing. I feel like that's one of the best skills I have myself. But, for doing really complex series of calculations that would take me probably like half an hour to do, it can just, if I say, how much do I need to sell the product for? If the distributor makes 30% and the retailer makes 40% after VAT, and I just do that, and it will give me a long list of calculations that are just done and dusted. And I think before then, it would take me like an hour to do. So
Okay, and so we've heard a bit about kind of the period of sort of R&D, the year of test sales, or just over a year of test sales. Like, tell us about what's next and kind of what you're looking for in your funding round to kind of get you to that next milestone.
Well, my immediate concern, like I said, talking about prioritizing, is my immediate concern is to raise some pre-seed funding, and that will really enable two things. One, it will reduce the cost per can for me for 40%, which will give me the margin to start working with distributors rather than just selling to small directly to shops in my area. I can sell to a bigger national distributor who can then do it. But obviously, they need to take a cut. And with investment, I'll be able to give myself the margin to do that. And the other thing is marketing. I've got the product. I've got the product ready to go. I know who the target market is. I know the right words to sell it. I just need to tell that story at scale. And ultimately, in today, all the time, you've got to spend money to do that on, PR, social media ads, all of that. I'm going to start, hammering that and start pumping sales really.
And how much are you looking to raise, and what's the best way for people to get in touch if they are interested in finding more out about your journey?
Yeah, so I'm looking to raise 100 grand. The best way to get in touch is either Instagram at Sleep Tonic or email tim@sleeptonic.com. And I'm looking to close the round by the end of the year in December. So no time like the present.
Love it. Well, look, thanks so much for talking to us. I appreciate the time and the advice, and good luck with your journey.
Thanks a lot, Chris. And and thank you again for organising the pitch. I found it incredibly useful. And I've even stayed in touch with some of the entrepreneurs that I've met since then, and also some of the judges. So it's proven to be immensely beneficial.
Love it. That's great to hear, Tim. Thank you.